I used to love watching the show Knight Rider because, let's be honest, there is no problem a dashingly handsome man in his talking sports car cannot solve. July 24th, 2014 on the People's Radio.
The People's Radio is an experimental technocratic media format for the working class. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the People's Radio are not necessarily the thoughts and opinions of Organizing for Humanity, of the People's Radio, or of anyone else. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome in once again, ladies and gentlemen, to our program, The People's Radio, July 24th, 2014. We're going to start off not bashing Republicans. Not this week. Not going after Republicans this week. Going after somebody much worse. Going after somebody more dangerous. We are going after an individual now. An individual that is more dangerous than the Republican Party. An individual that is more dangerous than even Jenny McCarthy. Mike Adams. Now, right about now, some listeners are going, oh yeah, that asshole. And other listeners are going, who? Maybe you've heard of the website naturalnews.com. This website is full of shit. Every single thing on that website is bogus, malarkey, nonsense, conspiracy theorist, hack, did I say it was nonsense yet? I mean, naturalnews.com is the biggest bogus bullshit piece of heaping pile of dog shit this side of the internet. It's absolutely famous for being full of shit. Right? And it's run by this guy called Mike Adams. Mike Adams calls himself the Health Ranger, which doesn't seem to have any known definition or anything like that. Here we go. Now, I'm at rationalwiki.org. Now, I'm going to go down the list here. And I'm just going to rapid fire off some things that this Mike guy believes in. Now, remember, these are things that this guy believes in and he promotes and supports on his website. These are not things that he's preaching against. These are things he supports and he believes in. Ready? All right. Mike Adams is a flat-out opponent of modern medicine. He opposes any medication, any doctor's visits. Adam calls himself a holistic nutritionist. He believes in eating raw food. He opposes any food that contains sugar. He opposes food that was cooked. He opposes food that has preservatives. He opposes red meat, any sweetener, homogenized milk. He opposes bread and gluten. He opposes white flour. He opposes genetically modified foods, of course. He's against deodorant, shampoo, and fluoride because he thinks they cause cancer. A recurring theme is the contrast between the psych's exacting criticism of evidence-based medicine and blah, blah, blah. Right. So here we go. Mike Adams says that the germ theory of disease is wrong. I'm not joking. Adams conflates evidence-based medicine in general with the failings of Big Pharma. Right? To him, it's this huge monolithic entity called mainstream medicine. Right? So in response to his belief in mainstream medicine, which is big pharma and the government and scientists, he just lumps those three together in one category, and he's just like mainstream medicine. In response, he has complete 100% acceptance in any alternative medicine. So in his mind, right, if it's science-based actual medicine that comes from a doctor, it's poison. But if it's alternative medicine that comes from a guy in a white lab coat pretending to be a doctor, it's totally legit. He supports homeopathy, chiropractic, anti-vaccination. He supports detox diets. Oh, no. You think I'm about to wrap things up here and then move on? No. We're not even getting started yet. Natural News also features big pharma conspiracy theories, right? Where they claim that the pharmaceutical companies will come up with vaccines for the sole purpose of killing people. He also talks about how the HIV vaccine is being developed for the sole purpose of, you guessed it, infecting people with HIV. He thinks that mammograms, screenings, breast cancer screenings is just a waste of money, and they exist just for profit. He thinks that chemotherapy is a criminal act, and doctors should be prosecuted for doing it or prescribing it or whatever, right? Check this out. It gets stranger. We're still talking about Mike Adams from naturalnews.com. If you think naturalnews.com is a source, you're stupid. He thinks Bill Gates and Microsoft are in the process of developing weaponized, ethnically targeted influenza viruses as part of a eugenics plot to take over the world. No, seriously. Seriously. We're not done. No, we're not done. Mike Adams also listens to, you guessed it, Alex Jones, right? And David Icke. David Icke is the guy that believes the world is controlled by reptilian aliens from another planet, and they shapeshift. They change their skin to look human so that we don't know that we actually have galactic lizard overlords. He believes this nonsense. And Mike Adams called him a, quote, real hero, end quote. Right? Mike Adams believes that cold fusion is real and the government is keeping it from us. He believes that the government is spraying us with commercial airplanes called chemtrails. He is a 9/11 truther. He believes the government did 9/11. He is an Obama birther. He believes that President Obama was born in Kenya and everybody's just lying about it. He is a Sandy Hook denialist. He does not believe the Sandy Hook massacre happened. He thinks what we saw on TV was just actors. I don't know what else to say. He thinks Scientology, right? Scientology is totally worth your time and worth looking into and worth practicing because it'll make you healthier, right? And I don't know where there's a list of things that he believes that's so crazy and so long. I don't even know where to I don't know where to end is the problem, right? Because there's still a couple of hundred things here. And I don't think I have enough time to go over all of them, right? But let's just, real quick, here are 20 predictions that Mike Adams of naturalnews.com made in 2013, right? These were 2013 predictions that he made in 2012. Okay? You ready? Mike Adams, the health ranger, whatever that means. The guy whose mind is so open his brain fell out a long time ago. The guy who flat out believes in everything woo and rejects everything empiricism. These are 20 predictions he made in 2012 about 2013. 2013, for those of you who don't know, was last year. So we can listen to these predictions, and then we can laugh, and we can be like, what an idiot. But I promise you, as I get down the list, the laughter will start to stop, and then people will start to be like, wow, this guy's crazy. Prediction number 1, an entire global economic collapse. Well, that didn't happen. Prediction number 2, Obama will get rid of the Second Amendment. Well, that didn't happen. Prediction number 3, martial law will be declared across all of America. Well, that didn't happen. Prediction 4, there's going to be extreme shortages of guns, ammo, magazines, and people are going to have to barter in order to get them. Well, that didn't happen. Prediction number 5, tactical weapons strikes targets Iran. That didn't happen. Number 6, massive false flag attack carried out in the USA blamed on patriots. 7, DHS arms the TSA and begins insane abuses of Americans on roadway checkpoints. Number 8, secret resistance groups begin to form across America. 9, attacks on the First Amendment accelerate as the government seizes websites. 10, the rise of violent rhetoric among the population as disagreements turns to threats. 11, global government makes its move. Expect to see UN troops on U.S. cities before the end of 2015, according to him. Number 11, accelerated mainstream media attacks on patriots, preppers, and veterans. 13, disagreement with government characterizes a mental disorder. 14, continued rise in unemployment, food stamps, welfare as Obama accelerates deliberate destruction of the U.S. economy. Well, that didn't happen. Criminalization of preparedness activities as government outlaws ammo storage. Riots in the streets following martial law. Deliberate food shortages used as weapons by the government. Weather will become radicalized with droughts, floods, and freezes. Solar weather gets nasty. Solar flares will threaten communications. And you will be told to answer to all of the problems. Blah, blah, blah is more government. You will be told the answer to all of our problems is more government. That's a weird one. So, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, none of these came true. None of these came true. Maybe number 18, weather becomes more radicalized with droughts, floods, and freezes, but that's because of global warming, not because of, whatever. Anyway, so this guy's crazy. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to end. He once bought a microscope. You can pick up a microscope off of eBay for $500 or whatever. He once bought a microscope, and he shoved it in a room, and then he declared that this was the Natural News Lab, where they were going to do research in quotation marks. And so he took a chicken McNugget from McDonald's, and he brought it home, and he put it under the microscope. And the dude had never looked at anything under a microscope before. He's not a freaking scientist. He's just a bullshit artist, right? So he looks at a chicken McNugget under a microscope, and he's like, oh, gasp. Things look different under a microscope than they do at full size. Oh my God! And he went running to his website, and he was like, look at this! Look at this! It looks like poison. It looks like fibers. It looks like metal. It looks like blah, blah, blah. We're all going to die. McDonald's is poisoning the world. And then, actual food scientists that had actually looked at food under a microscope before responded. And they were like, dude, what you talking about? Food looks like that under a microscope. Perhaps you should spend more time looking at things under a microscope. Because when you look at something really, really close and you magnify it a lot, it looks different. It's got texture and stuff that you didn't see before because it was too small to see. Hence, the microscope. So that you can see those things. Keep trying. Keep trying, kid. And Mike Adams responded with, "No! Those damn scientists! It's all part of the big pharma conspiracy!" The guy's crazy. The guy is crazy. Which brings me to his recent argument, or his recent article, which is the entire point that I'm getting to here. Mike Adams, the health ranger for naturalnews.com, have recently, I think it was yesterday, released an article. Nope. This was been updated July 24th, today, 2014. Mike Adams, the health ranger, says that it is your duty to kill scientists. Quote, it is the moral right and even the obligation of human beings everywhere to actively plan and carry out the killing of those engaged in heinous crimes against humanity. And what does he call crimes against humanity? You guessed it, making food and medicine for the public.
When you're ready to rise up, you'll rise up. All the power you need is in your hands. Now look around you. Our financial systems have been hijacked by a generation of thieves. While you're working harder and harder for less and less, the game is being rigged against you. They're turning all of us into virtual slaves. Looters, at the heart of our financial system, are price-fixing our most precious resources. Food, water, energy, gold. Even the value of money itself is being siphoned away by high-level crooks in a giant mushrooming conspiracy of unstoppable corruption. They're robbing billions of people of trillions of dollars a year, folks. There is no need for austerity measures. There is no need for financial suffering. No need for poverty. There is no scarcity. We are simply the victims of a robbery of unimaginable proportions. We have been fed a lie so vast it oppresses all of humanity. The truth is, there is more than enough to go around. 60 years ago, productivity was increasing so fast, they predicted by today, entire families could live comfortably on the income of just one provider, working only 10 hours a week. They wondered what we'd do with all of our spare time. What happened to that dream? Turns out they were right. What took a full work week back then can be done in just 10 hours today. We have technologies that multiply our efforts 1,000-fold and connect us in ways they never imagined. We are now 100 times richer than in that great heyday of the 50s. We are heirs to a great bounty of prosperity, $70 trillion in the U.S. alone, over $200,000 for every man, woman, and child. The only reason we don't experience this wealth is because it's being siphoned away by a corrupt criminal class. They loot through giant corporations, raising prices, lowering wages, stealing the fruits of our productivity. Where once whole families prospered with just one provider, now both parents work, delivering 8 times the productivity but struggling to make ends meet. They control the media using hot-button social issues to divide us, brother against brother, so we fight each other while they loot our sacred institutions. They make us fear too big to fail banks collapsing, but if they did, we'd suddenly recover the 8 times our income that's being siphoned away every single day. Don't give yourselves to these crooks who abuse you and enslave you, who steal your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Let us burn these leeches off our backs. Let us replace their corrupt systems with better systems that benefit everyone. Let us reclaim the fruits of our productivity. Let us share our prosperity. We can do this now. We are the creators, and when we come together, we have the power to create whatever future we want.
Capitalism is the biggest failure in the world. It's monarchy realized again. It is somebody else leveraging against you to force you to do something you don't want to do. That's capitalism. Forcing you to work. That's what the ANCAPs say. The anarcho-capitalists. They say if you don't want to work, die. That's not very moral when you think about it. So what happens when capitalists have their way? What happens when the Republicans take over a state and they have full control over it and the voters voted them in and the capitalists support them? What happens? What happens when Republicans are given free rein to do their little Republican things that they do? This next story comes from Forbes and it's talking about the state of Kansas. Governor Sam Brownback and his state legislature have embarked on a wonderful natural experiment. Once again, we're testing the question, can tax cuts pay for themselves? And yet again, the answer is no. Continuing the article, we've tried this experiment time and time again, and tax cut proponents such as economist Art Laffer continue to insist that they can turn fiscal drop into gold. Cut taxes deeply enough, and they will result in a boom in economic activity. It's magic. It's painless. It's everything a politician would ever want. Except it's snake oil. Over the past few years, Brownback and the Kansas legislature have gone all out on this theory. They have left little room for doubt, and now they're getting dismal results out of their ambitious experiment. The tax cuts in Kansas have been breathtaking. In 2012, Brownback's urging, the legislature cut individual tax rates by 25%, repealed tax on sole proprietorships and other pass-through businesses. It also increased the standard deduction. In 2013, the legislature cut taxes again. It passed a measure to gradually lower rates even more over 5 years. By 2018, the top rate, which was at 6.45%, will fall to 3.9%. So what happened to all of these after all of these tax cuts? Well, state revenue collapsed. From June 2013 to 2014, all Kansas state tax revenue plunged 11%. Individual income taxes fell from $2.9 billion to $2.2 billion. Tax collections plummeted from $3.3 billion to $2.6 billion. That's a drop of over 20%. Keep in mind that these are actual year-over-year declines, not shortfalls in projected revenue. Brownback has blamed their revenue shortfall on the federal government. Oh, who didn't see that coming? They say the fiscal cliff deal in late 2012 drove investors to accelerate capital gains realizations to beat the tax hike. Well, it certainly did that, but given that gains are less than 10% of individual income, blaming the state's dramatic decline in revenue on capital gains is really lame. While Kansas individual income tax revenues bumped up a bit in 2013 over 2012, the increase was only $23 million. From 2013 to 2014, income tax revenue dropped by $713 million. And that brings us to the bottom line. Since the first round of tax cuts, job growth in Kansas is lagging behind the rest of the U.S. economy. So have personal incomes. While more small businesses were formed, many of them were merely individuals taking advantage of the new tax-free status. So they were redefining themselves as a business. The business boom predicted by tax cut advocates has not happened. And the state of Kansas now has revenue loss. See, when you have a state, when you have people living in that state, when you have roads, when you have government services, firefighters, police, all these things, you need tax revenue in order to pay for them. Now, in a normal, well-functioning economy, if your economy is booming and everybody's making money, then taxes are not a big deal. I mean, who really cares about taxes when you're making money? Not I. I'm happy I'm making money. Paying taxes is me giving back to the economic system that enabled me to make money in the first place. Think about that. So that's how a normal economy runs. People make money. A portion of that money goes into tax revenue. The tax revenue goes into building the infrastructure and providing services for the people who are making money, making them even happier, making them even more money, and the cycle continues and everybody laughs. Aren't we all going to be rich and happy and hold hands and sing songs and dance? Yes, that's how an economic system is supposed to work. But when you come in and you suddenly just start slashing the taxes, well, then the revenue to support all those wonderful government programs that have enabled you to make money starts to circle the drain, starts to go away. And we can think about this in real world scenarios, you know. Like if I had a trucking company in Kansas and I was trying to deliver goods to Walmart or Publix or what have you with my truck, and then the state of Kansas just decided, we're gonna cut taxes. And then the next year comes along and they don't have enough money to actually keep up the roads, and the roads start to crumble, and maybe an exit ramp off the interstate falls apart. Now I can't get to Publix to deliver my goods. Now my business is in jeopardy. This is common sense stuff. In order to have a well-oiled machine that is an economic engine, you need good infrastructure. And in order to have good infrastructure, you need tax revenue. I mean, it's so simple. You could teach this to a 12-year-old, but Republicans still don't get it. Let's move on to Vox. I'm not even gonna read this article, but it's a good placeholder to remind me to talk about this. Folks, we have a problem coming up. We have a serious problem encroaching upon our very lives. You must listen to me about this. This is going to be worse than global warming. We have a labor crisis about to unfold in the 21st century. We are developing 3D printers now that can make 3D printers. We are developing 3D printers now that can start off as just one little singular 3D printer sitting by itself, but then it will start building parts and assembling itself to become something bigger and greater, and it upgrades itself until it's a big, fully functional factory that can freaking make anything. We are about to enter uncharted territory. You know, in Star Trek, right? One of the reasons why they're able to live in this socialist utopia, this communist, federalist heaven, is because they don't have to work. The civilians just kind of, chill out and do whatever they want. They go to Ryza and they have sex and they go on vacation and they ride around on starships. I mean, you see them in the show all the time, like hitchhiking from place to place. Oh yeah, we're going to the moon of Andorus, and we're going to look at the ruins of the blah, blah, blah people. And the captain's all like, well, all right, you guys be safe and watch out for, like, Romulans and shit. Nobody works. You have Starfleet. And Starfleet are those volunteers, those that love the Federation so much they wish to serve it. So they sign up to serve in Starfleet. And it's kind of like, being the best you can be. Because if you want to be a Starfleet officer, the folklore of Star Trek has Starfleet officers being the most highly trained dudes in the galaxy. They're trained to do everything from seducing green alien women to disarming a bomb on a Klingon warbird. They can do it all. Now, what kind of economic system enables such possibilities? An infinite resource economy. Now, what's an infinite resource economy? An infinite resource economy is when you have everything that you could ever want or need at your fingertips immediately, and it's just right there, and all you have to do is just order it up, and you got it. They walk into their rooms, and they go up to the replicators, and they say, "Dear replicator, I would like some Chinese food, please." And it goes, and then there's Chinese food there. They go into the bays on the ships, the cargo bays. "Oh man, we need some more aluminum. Dear computer, please replicate some aluminum for us out of the hydrogen gas that the starship has been sucking up as we travel through the galaxy." And then there's aluminum there. Right? Replicators enabled the Star Trek Federation economic system of luxury, where people get to just sit around all day and the Federation takes care of everything. It is a volunteer workforce. Not everybody works. Not every single human being has it inside of them to do that type of work. Not every single human being on planet Earth has it inside of them to desire, to want, to work hard all of their life and to slave away all of their life for somebody else. What they do work for in Star Trek is for the betterment of mankind, because they've removed the profit motive. When you go to work, you're not working to get somebody else rich. You're working for yourself, your family, your species, your federation of planets. And that to me seems more important and more worthy than working for $13 an hour, so that you can then use that $13 an hour to buy food rations and to pay for a place to stay. No, in the Star Trek universe, it's an infinite resource economy. They just walk up to the replicator and they say, "Hey man, I would like a baseball bat or something." And then it goes, and there's a baseball bat there. They can even go into the holodeck and conjure up a fake female woman if they want. Anything. It's all at the touch of a finger. Oh, they don't even have to use their finger. They can just be like, "Computer, give me a ice cream sundae." Ice cream sundae. There you go. What I'm trying to tell you is that we are about to enter this sort of scenario in real life with real human beings. And I'm not being overly dramatic. I'm not intentionally being hyperbolic. I'm not, trying to get some internet clicks and views here. I'm telling the truth. 3D printing is going to change everything. We will no longer need factories with thousands of workers assembling things and creating things. We will just print them up. And that is just the beginning. NASA has a 3D printer that prints food. You heard me right. NASA has a 3D printer that prints fucking food. Like a replicator from Star Trek. The first thing they printed up was actually a pizza. Believe it or not. It's crazy. We're getting there. Really short. Really short. I know it seems like forever, because it's 2014 now. Singularity is going to happen in the early 2030s, late 2030s at the latest. So we've got to wait a little longer. We've got to prepare some more. We got to know it's coming. But it is coming. It is coming. An infinite resource economy is coming. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to explain to you an economic system that we can start right now, right here in America, that will prepare us for such a future, for such a transition 15, 20 years down the road. And we can start it today, and there's no downsides, no serious downsides. We'll talk about that when we get back from the break.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
To live and to live in a mystery and to find purpose and to live in the now. Magic. Now.
What's your most adventurous memory?
This! I remember this! This is an adventure! This is the memory!
What advice do you have for younger generations?
Younger generations? Live in the moment! Don't get old! Don't judge people! Because you can't be free if you judge people! Love now! Create! Inspire!
How do you define free?
By doing what you love.
What do you love?
This! The moment! Love! Now! It repeats! Very good.
What other advice do you have for us?
That you're already doing. You're always doing what's in your heart. You can't get away from your heart. Because life is a paradox. It's a mirror of confusion. So, love now.
Who do you love?
I love all of you.
Universal Basic Income. UBI for short. Guaranteed income for being alive. Are you alive? Are you a citizen of this country? Are you breathing right now? You get a check. That's right. You get a check for being alive. This is how the system would work. And Sweden, hey, I can feel some of you trying to turn down your dial, trying to flip over, trying to change tabs in your browser, trying to go to another site, moving the mouse up to click X. You're all like, oh my God, we're just going to give people money for being alive? Just hold on now. This makes perfect logical sense. An economy is this overall unit. It's this thing. It's this symbiotic organism type thing. An economy is, millions of businesses, millions of people doing their thing, doing commerce, doing transactions, doing their thing. So there's going to be a sum output. The economy is like an engine. It's going to generate. It's going to churn. It's going to create. You're going to have more sofas one day. You're going to have more refrigerators one day because your factories are churning them out. You're going to have more money and more wealth because people have worked to make those refrigerators, and now they've used that money to buy refrigerators and houses and cars. And so we're taking raw resources from the ground, and we're turning it into stuff. We're turning it into production. Actual production that makes human lives better, human infrastructure, stuff like that. Right? So the economy itself makes you money as a country. If you're a country, and nobody is a country because a country is a collection of people. But if you are a country, when your economy is booming, like in the 1990s here in America, money is being made, right? Tax revenue is being generated. Things are going good. So when money's being made, you can take a portion of that from the tax revenue and then you can distribute it directly to the people. There's two different ways that we could do this. Very specific ways that we could do it, which is you take from the tax revenue and you distribute to the people straight to the bank accounts, or you take from the already existing inflation in the currency and then you distribute it to the people straight to their bank accounts. See, the way it works now is the Federal Reserve inflates the money, and the money goes into Wall Street. And then you never, ever see that money. It just goes into the pockets of Warren Buffett and, Rockefeller, or whoever's in, the big wigs now. Bill Gates. Whatever. What they could do instead is inflate the currency and put that money, divide that money up amongst the American people, and then put it straight into their checking account. So you would just wake up one day and they'd be like, oh, so we inflated the dollar last night and you got $25,000 in your checking account. But so did your neighbor, and so did his neighbor, and so did his neighbor. Every single person eligible for this, so I'm guessing it would be 18 and up, would be eligible. Every single person just received $25,000 in their bank account. Now, at first, this seems ludicrous because it's oh my God, I worked hard for my money. Why should somebody else get $25,000 for sitting at home? Well, you just got $25,000 too, so you can't complain. You can't bitch. You just got $25,000 too, so shut up. All right. So now imagine what would happen if this scenario actually played out. Imagine, if you will, all of the people in the lower income brackets, all the people that live in the rural areas, all your Walmart shoppers of the world, would go crazy. They would buy everything. They would buy TVs. They would buy refrigerators. They would go and they would buy a new car. They'd be like, $25,000. I'm rich. That's a down payment on a new house. And they'd go buy a house, what have you. So you know that right there in the short term, the economy would get this mini boom because everybody would start buying stuff, right? And then realize that a guaranteed income or universal basic income does not stop. It's a regular thing that just keeps coming. That check keeps coming until you are dead. Doesn't matter if you're working. Doesn't matter if you're not working. Doesn't matter if you're disabled. Doesn't matter if you're not disabled. Doesn't matter. You can be Bill O'Reilly. You can be Al Sharpton. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you are, what you do. You could be a millionaire. You could be a crackhead. Does not matter. You get that money. And the money just keeps coming. And it's a check. You just keep getting, keep receiving. It's like a paycheck. Only it comes from the government. So people would continue to take that money. They would continue to spend it. They would spend it on everything. They would spend it on consumer goods. They'd spend it on food. They'd spend it on the home shopping network. They would buy investment vehicles. They would do pretty much everything that people do with money with that money. And it would make our economy boom. Oh yeah, and here's the good part. The workforce at that point then becomes voluntary. Now, I can already hear some of you in your minds thinking, but won't everybody just choose to sit at home? No. No. Study after study after study after study after study shows that when people are left to their own devices, like when people win the lottery or what have you, or when people, get an inheritance, when people don't have to work, 9 times out of 10, they choose to work anyway. They may not be punching a clock at the Golden Corral working for $5 an hour, but they still choose to work on something. They work on their own projects. They work on their own hobbies. They start their own business. They start their own companies. They do something to occupy themselves. Human beings don't just sit at home. People who just sit at home and do nothing are the people that are going, man, I really wish I had money to go out and do something. It's there really is not a class of people that just want to sit at home all day, every day for the rest of their lives. That class just does not exist. You have people that suffer from depression and they sit around and they don't really do anything. Well, that's because they're suffering from depression. Maybe if they get some freaking money, they can go see a doctor and get that taken care of. But, whatever. So I hope that I've explained this universal basic income thing. Now look, the baby boomers are going to hate it. They call it communism. I've talked to a couple of them on Reddit. They call it communism. They say, what? You're giving everybody money? That's communism. All right, whatever you say, bucko. But the millennials are going to love it. As we get older, and as those jobs start to go away, and as those manufacturing and industry jobs start to go away, when Lockheed Martin starts 3D printing their planes, when computer programs start programming themselves, when robots start repairing and manufacturing themselves, suddenly we're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Years ago, they had an idea to set up our economy for this so that we wouldn't go without. And we didn't go for it. Silly us. Now we're paying the price. That's what I think. I think we should really go for universal basic income now so that we can get used to it and get it up and running and get the system in place in preparation for the coming collapse of the labor market. And if you think the labor market's not going to collapse, let me be the one to inform you that right now, as I'm speaking, they are testing a system that fully automates fast food burger restaurants like McDonald's. That's right. It has the capability of making 16 hamburgers a minute or some crap like that. It's a machine that makes all your fast food items and then delivers it, and the customer just picks up the bag and walks. So, hey, keep sitting there not listening. I don't care. Real quick, let's talk about some nuclear power. Maybe we'll do that for the next segment. Here's a quick study we can do. We can talk about this real quick. Somebody took the time, so the capitalist / libertarian argument for this extremely high amount of money that the 1% makes compared to the chicken scrap garbage that the rest of us make. The argument that they make is, well, you're paying for performance. You're paying for a CEO who knows what he's doing so that he can steer the company and blah, blah, blah. Somebody took all the CEOs, 200 CEOs to be exact, and they put them up on a graph where they showed how much money they made versus the performance of their company's stock. Now, you would expect, given the arguments that CEOs just, they're performance-based bonuses. You're paying a guy for the performance. You would expect that the higher-paid CEOs would have higher performance, higher performing stock, higher performance as far as profit margins and blah, 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 right? Right? Well, that is not what we find at all. In fact, the entire graph just looks like a random piece of night sky. It looks like stars on a graph. It looks like they are distributed at complete random. There is no pattern. There's no correlation. Nothing. Nothing to be deduced from this at all. They're just completely all over the place. You got some in the top right, some in the bottom left, some in the bottom right, and the top left. They're all scattered out throughout the middle, through all the sides. There's no empty spaces or anything like that. It's just they're all over the map. So it turns out that the performance of your CEO seems to be kind of like a random roll of the dice thing. When you compare it to how much money they make. So this study has brought into doubt whether or not how much money a CEO makes is contrasting their performance. So, I mean, come on. I mean, people like me knew this, though. Come on. It's like, it's the other show the other day when we were talking about how Bill Gates was talking about, like, and I'm going to give away half my fortune, and then his fortune grew and doubled in size since he said it. It's these CEOs, man, these ultra wealthy. Come on. It's all smoke and mirrors. They don't do anything. They don't actually do anything that's worth that money. Can you, listener at home, tell me something, anything that is worth somebody making $1 billion of currency? What? Brain surgeons don't make that. Oncologists that cure people of cancer and give people a second shot at life do not make that kind of money. Soldiers on the battlefield that risk their lives and risk getting shot in the freaking face don't even make $1 billion. Can you, the listener, tell me anything you can think of that a human being deserves to be paid $1 billion for? Especially considering that $1 billion has to come out of our pockets. For you see, economies are linked. It's our money. It's got the United States government name on it. It doesn't say Carl S. Smith at 123 Rose Drive. No. It's our money, the collective, the government, the nation, United States of America, and the United States economy, which includes all of us, which make up that economy. See you after the break. Final segment of the People's Radio, July 24th, 2014. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. If you've made it to the ending here, I want to give you a cookie, but I cannot physically do that yet over the internet. Let's try to end on some good news. So I'll save that piece for last, but let's just real quick talk about these two items in the final few minutes of our program today. In Sweden, they're having to shut down a nuclear reactor because it's a little hot. And I'm not talking about the reactor is too hot. I'm talking about it's a little too hot outside. Global warming is kicking Sweden's ass right now, causing it to be unseasonably warm, causing temperatures to be a little high. And that's what gets me about nuclear power. These are not incredibly high temperatures. These are just a few degrees higher than normal. And they're having to shut down the reactor. Because the way that it works is you have a nuclear reaction and then it gets all super hot and then you pump in water and the water cools it down and keeps it at a certain temperature so that you can keep it stable and keep it generating heat and extract energy from it. Well, now, because of the unseasonably warm weather and the unseasonably warm climate that they're experiencing, the cooling water, is a little too warm. And it's not able to do its job effectively. It's not able to actually keep the reactor cool, so they're throttling it back. But just remember, nuclear activists claim nuclear is going to solve all of our energy problems. All we got to do is build 300 more nuclear reactors in the next 2 months. That's what they'll say. I mean, it would only be the most expensive endeavor in the history of humanity, but whatever. Oh, and when you run into problems like this, where it's a little too hot outside and you can't cool it down, well, then you just add energy to the system. You add a new cycle that cools the water down. And then that just lowers the efficiency of the overall thing, right? That's pretty much what just happened here in Florida. We just had a nuclear reactor shut down because financially it was not feasible to run. Nuclear is the solution to our energy needs. My ass. From the Washington Post, U.S. leads in a number of people that are completely not concerned about climate change. I gotta tell you, people need to wake the fuck up. The White House just released a new study that showed that it's going to be pretty freaking bad for America. This is not something that we can just move inland and escape. This is not rising sea levels that we can just pack up and move away from. Every single square inch of planet Earth is going to be influenced, even devastated by climate change. And we are no longer talking about 150, 200 years out. We are no longer even talking about 100 years out. We are now in the 21st century, and scientists are flat out saying, oh, it's here. It's here. No longer are the projections 100 years out, 50 years out. Now they're looking over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What's going to happen? How much sea erosion will happen on the beaches? How much sea level rise is going to happen in North Carolina and Virginia? How much land is going to be lost in South Florida? How severe the drought is going to be in California? How much cattle they're going to lose in Texas because of the desertification? It's going to be bad, folks. It's only going to get worse, which is why I would like to leave you on some good news. This is from Phys.org, phys.org, phys.org. The first direct diode laser bright enough to cut and weld metal. Hooray! All right, so check it out. I'm not like a super expert scientist or what have you, but you've got several different types of lasers. And until now, in order to get a super powerful laser like the one in like Iron Man where he's like, shooting through metal, you needed like a chemical laser. We're talking about like a really powerful freaking laser that burns fuel like a freaking rocket engine, right? And you have to burn that fuel in order to get that much energy, in order to make the laser that focused and bright and intense and, not anymore. They have these things called laser diodes, right? Where you just kind of like, turn it on and it just kind of like generates a laser, right? As long as you feed, power to it. But they've never been able to like make a diode that's been powerful enough to actually do the stuff that you see in science fiction movies, right? That's what makes it science fiction. It's all made up shit. Now, they have a laser diode that can make one badass freaking laser, man. This laser can cut through a metal, can weld metal, all that good stuff, right? They can mass produce it. They can put it on the end of a 3D printer. So this is going to work in manufacturing. This is going to change things. They're now going to be able to make a robot that can totally weld. They're now going to, they've already got welding robots, but this one's going to be a little different. This one can actually, just, cut out custom cuts and weld custom cuts. The robots that we have currently, right, what they do is they have to be pre-programmed to do a set motion by a human. And then what it does is it just copies that motion over and over and over and over and over again. So like the two pieces of metal come and they're always in the exact same location each time and they stop. And then the robot will come in and go and it'll pinch them together and that's a weld, right? And that's how robots weld today. Well, now that we've got this laser diode 3D printer head welder laser thingy, this is going to be great. It's going to be like Iron Man. It's going to be like, okay, well, here's the metal. All right, cool, we got it. Fantastic. Living in the 21st century is amazing. And every single day I wake up and there are new advances in manufacturing, new advances in medicine, new advances in renewable energy. It's great. We're also having huge advances and breakthroughs with computing. And, we'll probably try to talk about that a little bit next week because it looks like the quantum computer, the D-Wave, is having a few problems and they're trying to iron that out. But not to worry, my friends. Everything's going to solve itself later on this year when they make a new processor because either the thing's going to be scaled up in performance or it won't. It's called Rose's Law. You can check that up and look into it during the week. Once again, this has been the People's Radio. Hey, I'm about to get out of here, guys. I will catch you guys later. Thanks for listening. You can find us at facebook.com/Technocrat Radio. You can find us on reddit.com/The People's Radio. Well, it's actually /r/The People's Radio. It's The People's Radio on Facebook, The People's Radio on Reddit. You can find us, The People's Radio, on YouTube. I'll have that YouTube link up shortly, not to worry. This actual podcast will be uploaded to the new YouTube channel. We had to change channels. I was on my personal channel that I kind of was throwing my radio podcasts up on, but now we've moved over to an official channel. Not to worry, the studio is about to go through some expansion and upgrades. This week we're going to be installing some new garden stuff. Remember, we were running a test program with tomatoes at our other facility. Not to worry, we're about to get back up and running with gardening. Organizing for Humanity is going to be back in full swing, baby, after our $4,000 move. It's nice to get things back in the swing of things. Thanks again for listening to People's Radio, July 24th, 2014 edition.